All right, click the links to join channel here over at Subscribe Store. Kind of a iffy video to do on YouTube because it has basically like every hot word and phrase in it. Transgender developer releases anti-gender fashionable game Terfenstein 3D to draw a comparison between gender critics and Hugo Boss Germany. Okay. So male violent fantasies in a first-person shooter. Well, that's not very ladylike. So what happened? This person creates Moen, I think, Sandra Moen, creates a video game that seems based on Zer's personal manifesto, the sort of thing that somebody writes before they go out and Facebook live stream their big finish, if you know what I'm saying. And it's funny, there's people on Facebook, criminals will live stream their gang shootouts with each other, with their oppositions, or shootouts with the police, and they Facebook live stream all that stuff. Like, Facebook's where they do it, and then like one person does something on Gab that's somehow tangentially related to something, and the Congress and the machine is working to take down Gab, and you look at it like, but this stuff is literally on Facebook every week. This is the premier platform for criminals to live stream like gang behavior is on Facebook. And they go, oh yeah, let's focus on Gap. Like, none of this makes sense until you put on the glasses, and then it makes a whole lot of sense. So the video game has a player go around to churches, but not synagogues or mosques, and deletes Catholic priests, but not imams or rabbis, and not in the warm sandy place where they are actually not too big on BLT rights. But anyway, and they also go around deleting women who believe that women are women, basically stand-ins for J.K. Rowling, who they really can't get over that J.K. Rowling thing. The thing is, like, they were way too involved with the J.K. Rowling books and the movies and the picking the houses they want to be in, like, way too involved in some fantasy universe. That was good, but it's not. I mean, the books were good. They weren't great, though. They're not going to stand the test of time. They're not going to be like The Hobbit. It's been around for 100 years. But the thing is, we're House Hufflepuff, and we're going to play Quidditch, and it's like, just enough. This is getting a little weird when adults are getting into this. So try to imagine if this was any other group that was doing this kind of stuff. Great. You're deleting a blonde priest, and then later you're deleting all the people you're deleting are blonde and fair skinned for some reason. If any other group did something like this, if Nick Fuentes made a video game going around and doing this to their crowd, which would be hysterical, don't get me wrong, it would be it's actually not a bad idea, but it would be nonstop media coverage, and the FBI would be giving press conferences. Even the president would come out and mumble some dementia nonsense about his leg hair, and Kamala would probably tell a story about how this happened to her once. It was a true story. It happened to her once, and it's like, Kamala, it's a fictional video game. And then she'd do that weird laugh, that kind of cackle. Anyway, so because this person is on the BLT identity spectrum, they can make a violent fantasy video game about attacking women and Catholics, and the media just ignores it. I mean, just take a look at what this is. It is a violent ideation blueprint written by a mentally ill person who literally has violent fantasies about hurting women and Catholic priests. Just pause and let that sink in for a minute. And the media isn't covering it. Channels like this are covering it with videos that are going to get 100 views. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Zer doesn't have the right to make the game, by all means. But we should also be talking about it and the issues with some people in their community and their violent fantasies against women, because they're not shy about talking about their fantasies on Twitter, Tumblr, and Reddit. I mean, they're really openly. It's not just that they have weird fantasies. Most people have. Everyone has a fantasy of something, but theirs is way over the spectrum. Most people are like, I don't know what people's fantasies are. I was going to say something about clowns, but their stuff is deeper and darker. Which, okay, that's still on the spectrum of humans have all kinds of creative imaginations. That's fine. But people know to keep that stuff. You wouldn't publicly go start talking about these fantasies about hurting other people, women, and you wouldn't talk about that publicly, because at least you'd be like, you're sane enough to know, okay, listen, this stuff has to be on the down low. You don't like have the optics of it. I'm trying to say, it's like they have their BLT flags. There's like the rainbow flag means one thing, and then there's like a more pastel colored flag which means something else. But it all generally means the BLT community. But they're on their social media posts, And their icons are always like Japanese anime of with girls with the what's the neck, that little necklace. It's like a neck. It's like a garter belt on the neck or something. It's some kind of decorative. Like they all kind of rip each other off. And but they have their like their BLT flags, but then they're also talking about these violent fantasies against women, and it's like, peeps, like, let's examine the optics of it. You're very publicly in the BLT community, and you're also very publicly talking about your violent fantasies. Like, aren't you cognizant about how this is going to reflect on your group? If you want to, like, this, don't you want to kind of keep this thing to yourself? Just keep this in your head. And it's like, no, they're way public about it. Like on Twitter, they'll openly say threats against TERFs, and nobody in their community says, yeah, you probably want to dial that back because you're kind of making the whole community look bad. But they're not aware of that, which is like a different stage of mental illness. It's like, it's one stage. The fantasies are fine, but dark fantasies are, something's wrong. Like really dark fantasies like this. But then that's one stage. But the next stage is then being very public about it. It's like you don't know enough to keep that on the down low. Is kind of like a very more serious issue of mental illness. It's like walking around outside, with your underwear on outside of your pants, just not you're just not tracking with the real world. And the thing is, if I was on the left, and I'm not in most regards, the first thing I would be trying to cut these people loose as fast as I can. And I'm not talking about the gay community in general, but there's just one little subset of it that, if you're aware of the political machine of the left, it's the best thing you could do is to cut this group loose. But I know the left is not listening to this video. And the thing is, in a sick way, it's good that they make these video games that open the door to their fantasy worlds, because it's a window into their mind. Because most people don't have fantasies about. Some of the things I've seen repeatedly is using women as like cattle. It's really, really twisted. And okay, so that's deep, dark, and twisted. But the other twisted thing is the social environment where nobody in their own community says, dude, this is pretty effed up. Why are you having these fantasies? Probably because you're mentally ill and you need a lot of therapy. But the other thing is, like, why are you being public about these fantasies about using women as like breeding cattle? That's really, really, really dark. Like, nobody's on board. No, you're not taking the audience along on this ride. 99.9% of people are going to want to cut you loose for hurting women. Like, that's just not how people are wired. But it's good that they're kind of showing people a window into their world, because people need to see who they are and what some of them fantasize about. When they tell you who they are, believe them. And it's also kind of an indicator of a canary in the coal mine for a very, very sick society that can create people like this. But it's like, I'm trying to say, it's not just the creation of these people, because people have always had weird, twisted, fantasies. But it's people always, like, it's that they're taking this stuff public and just going, oh, there's my fantasy. We're gonna restrain these women and snuggle them and use them to carry on the species, because we don't do that ourselves. Like, oh, that's weird. That's weird that you'd say that aloud. What a strange thing to say. Anyway, so I don't know about putting this video on YouTube. This is probably not good for monetization. We'll get that 57 cents. The person discovered that they were BLT because they were watching the degenerate psyop known as prawn, which, if I was in charge, I would I'll say I would handle that. Would get rid of it in its entirety. Zur was watching prawn and learned that women can have male phalluses, which is a very good reason to ban prawn, because you got people who are mentally ill, susceptible to manipulative programming, which is what prawn is, and they see it and they go, oh, it imprints on their mind. It goes, oh, I can do this, I can be this. This is how people can behave. It's like, the prawn industry is a really dark industry, and those people have a very high mortality rate, usually self-inflicted or dealing with chemical abuse. So prawn is a weapon of war that most people aren't even aware is being fought and that they're losing. So the timeline is, you take a young person who is high functioning but also mentally ill with violent fantasies about women. They're exposed to degenerate prawn, and they learn that women have penises and silicone fake boobs. No, they don't. That's not what a woman is. An adult human female. A female, general definition, is one who bears a young. A male bears the seed, or carries the seed. And Zur starts to identify as a woman. with a penis. It's like, this just is not how words work. This is not how syntax works, where you say trans X is equal to X. It's like, that's not how a logical construct works in any world. It's a nonsensical universe. You're trying to say you have a non-causal based language. You're not going to be able to do anything with it. And writes a video game where the user mass deletes blonde-haired Catholic priests and blonde-haired women who are TERFs, which means women that believe that a woman is an adult human female. And because of that, Zer believes they deserve to be violently attacked. Mags Visaggio also expressed violent fantasies about cis people, and nobody wants to mention that maybe there are some issues going on here, because they'll just get doxxed, fired, the banks will close your account. Chase Bank, Wells Fargo, MasterCard, Bank of America, PayPal, Patreon, all those online processors, everyone will just shut you down if you go against the narrative in any slight way, like J.K. Rowling, J.K. Rowling is so big, but somebody who's much smaller, that cartoonist just came out. He said some very reasonable things. If people don't like you, stay away from them. Essentially, it's like, oh well, we're going to cancel you as much as we can. They're both insulated by wealth, but you see what happens when the machine comes after you. So all of this Sodom and Gomorrah stuff continues because nobody's allowed to publicly oppose it, because there's a mentally ill, angry hate mob who will track you down online. Like you saw what they did to J.K. Rowling. 3 men went to her house holding up signs with her address visible in the background. That's effing creepy. And even other people online, to their credit, women were coming out, like even women on the left who are pro BLT were saying, yeah, you don't go to somebody's house. You don't go to a woman. You don't go to anyone's house, and much less a woman, but you just don't go to somebody's house. It's like, this is an internet-based discussion. You're using words to discuss ideas on the internet. Going to somebody's house is a very serious escalation, but it's also it's like the optics of it that they don't understand, where they say all this stuff and you go like, do you really not understand how people are perceiving you? And apparently they don't, which is in itself, it's another elevation of a threat level. That I think those poor people got chased off the internet because they went to a woman's house with her address in the background. What else is that but a threat? You took something off the internet and you made it IRL. It's very deeply disturbing. And I think honestly, like that was kind of that one thing was like there's little wake up calls that happen to people on the left when they see the far left, but they're still afraid to call out the far left, so they don't know what to do about it. Anyway, so one of the interesting things is that this is skewed the crime reporting statistics, because female crime is suddenly on the rise because they identify as women so that they can end up going to women's jails. So suddenly women are committing a whole lot of violence it happens. I think it happens more in the UK, but it's probably happening everywhere. Where women's violent crime rate is on the rise, and like women are looking around like, okay, is anyone going to say anything? Is anyone going to do anything? And most of the time it's not, because like, how much pressure you'll be under if you're a public figure and you come out against some of this stuff. Even to the point where like these people are talking about their violent. It's really hard to talk about this on YouTube. I don't even know if this is worth doing on YouTube, to get that little yellow $sign, which means you're not monetized. It's not the money. It's because it's only like $1 or less. It's that YouTube doesn't like that type of video, and if you keep doing videos that they don't like, you're not going to be long for YouTube. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys on the next episode.